Hello, I hope you're having just a great day today. Today we're going to be taking a look at George MacDonald and his short story, Diamond's Dream, which I have here in my Penguin Classics collection by him, which was published in 1999. And you can see it here. This is the complete fairy stories by Penguin Classics, George MacDonald for you. So anyway, we'll be going ahead and taking a look at the first. This is the first thing I've ever read by George MacDonald. He's very influential. He died in 1905. He's very influential, and I was reminded that I want to read some of his stuff by J.R.R. Tolkien. In this copy of The Switch of Wooten Major, which I've reviewed for you already, in it, J.R.R. Tolkien was inspired by a story by George MacDonald called The Golden Key. He was doing a prelude for the Golden Key as an introduction for it in a book that was going to republish the Golden Key by George MacDonald. And while he was writing his introduction to this story, he went back and reread it. And he was inspired by the Golden Key and by his introduction to write The Switch of Wooten Major, which I have already reviewed for you. In fact, in here is his introduction to that collection that was going to have the Golden Key in it, in case you want to read it, which I've already linked to you below. I'll also link to you below the Penguin Classic for you as well. Now, typically in my reviews, I give you a synopsis and my quick review for you. This short story is only 7 pages long in my oversized collection, and there's a lot of description. Not a whole lot of stuff happens. So it's hard for me to give a synopsis of it. I finished it, and I went back and reread the first 2 pages because I wanted to make sure that I was in a good place to review it for you, and for my synopsis. But it's just hard to do it. It's basically the character of Diamond is dreaming, and they dream of angels and stuff that happens. So one of the things I'm coming across with a new appreciation of having read my first George MacDonald short story and the introduction to it, and taking a deep dive into George MacDonald, is this appreciation that his fantasies are taking place in a dream setting, these fairy stories and these fantasies. And having fantasies in a dream setting is something I've already encountered before. For example, H.P. Lovecraft might be known today for his horror, but he actually wrote a lot of fantasy short stories too, and he came obviously after George MacDonald and would have been familiar with George MacDonald's works. And so his fantasy stuff, like Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, which I've reviewed for you too, are taking place in a dream, in the dreamlands that you get to by dreaming and falling asleep and entering the dreamlands. So this idea of fantasy worlds in a dream setting is something that I've already familiar with H.P. Lovecraft. It's also something that H.P. Lovecraft himself was influenced by with a guy named Lord Dunsany, a writer I've also covered for you too, including some of his dreamland stuff too. And he also was a guy who you had to dream to get to a lot of his fantasies. Now, some of his fantasies just took place in our world. There's a novel that I've reviewed for you by Lord Dunsany also. But again, George MacDonald was very influential, came before Lord Dunsany, came before H.P. Lovecraft. So this idea of fantasy being entered into by dreaming is something that definitely was resonant with those people. And I'm getting a deeper appreciation now that I'm turning to somebody that I'm sure that they both read in George MacDonald or were familiar with this idea of fairy stories and fantasy being entered into with a dream state and these dreams and this dreaming idea. So I'm interested in exploring it further with George MacDonald, and I'll read another one of his short stories at least. Got a whole collection from Penguin Classics, so we're going to be taking a look at the next thing too. I liked it. Had a lot of descriptions. Had a lot of great lines. And my favorite, in particular, is one line about this dream moving towards our character Diamond in Diamond's Dream, which I particularly found interesting. So I definitely enjoyed the short story. I definitely think he's a good writer. I give it an 8 out of 10. It's definitely very, very well done. But I'm not giving it a higher score because, again, not a whole lot happens. It's a lot of description, just not a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of plot, which in a modern day short story would be a big no-no. You probably wouldn't get published without a lot of plot. Just a lot of description. But anyway, but it's only 7 pages long. The description's really good. It didn't take me long to read it. It didn't take me long to reread the first 2 pages either. So there you are. I did find him a slower reader like a Clark Ashton Smith than a faster reader like a Robert E. Howard. So just as an FYI, going into it, just so you have your eyes wide open. And there you are. That's Diamond's Dream, which was published in a collection. It was the 25th chapter in that collection. I'll link you to the free version below because it's past its copyright date, as well as this collection on pay one if you want to read it in paper. So that way you have a couple of options for you to read it. I'll link both of those to you below. So have you read Diamond's Dream? If so, what did you think of it? I would love to talk with you further about it in the comments below, or my take on Diamond's Dream, and sort of my deep dive into George MacDonald and dreaming and context, and and that sort of thing too. I'd be more than happy to engage with it further in the comments below. If you like this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow in fantasy, like this one, short stories, and novels, fantasy, science fiction, and horror to come. So if you like this, subscribe. And then finally, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? And we're being pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.